Welcome back. You are watching Global Eye. US emerged as India's largest trading partner in FY23. How is India poised to grow as an alternative to China? And what are the sectors in India that American investors would be most excited about? Let's continue this conversation with John Chambers, chairman of USISPF. The US-China rivalry, how do you see that playing out? Number one. And secondly, if India has to rise as an alternative to China, what does it need to do? What are some of the areas that it needs to work on immediately to leverage this opportunity? Because as many say, this China plus one window is not going to exist forever.
So 4 questions, if I counted them right. Let me try to take them in sequence. Giving your viewership a little bit of background, I was one of the first American business leaders to bet big time on China. When I was with Wang Laboratories, Dr. N. Wang's operation of mini computers during the mid-'80s, I did the first joint venture in China, became very comfortable in that marketplace. Dr. Wang was Jiang Zemin's classmate, the prior president in China, and I got to know him very well over the years. Then when I became CEO of Cisco, right as I became CEO, I made a huge bet on China at being an outsourcing opportunity way before other people saw it for high-end technology. And we brought manufacturing into China in a real win-win relationship, a huge advantage for me in terms of our company and direction. And candidly, the Chinese leadership, both business and government, delivered on almost all commitments that occurred. Lately, that relationship has come under tremendous strain. India has taken almost the position of China in terms of being the easiest partner to do business with, and that we'll come back to in a second. But China has lost trust, more of a win-lose relationship with many American companies and American business. And so you see a hesitance and a concern having your supply chain tied to that in ways that we have in the past. A currency of a country or leader is very simple. It is basically their track record, the relationships they develop, and trust. And that's something I think India is doing very well. I think India will become the #1 manufacturing location in the world for the reasons we covered earlier. It will take more time in terms of making it happen, but I think things are headed the right way. The only wish I have is we move faster and knock the hurdles out of the way that are slowing us down toward achieving that goal. But the opportunity's there. I'd be both surprised and disappointed if India does not rise to that opportunity.
Right. Your advice to startups in 2024, especially Indian startups, looking at the global economic environment right now?
My advice is that the right time to start a startup is often when there's been an economic slowdown or a slowdown in capital. And clearly that's what has occurred in the last 2 to 3 years. Just for your viewership, in 2021, there were 10 times the number of unicorns created that there were in this last year, and about 8 times the number of decacorns created. So you've seen a slowdown in the startup community with funding, which, by the way, we covered in a session with you all 2 years ago, saying this was going to happen. Now's the time when you haven't got too many investments going at one time. It's a higher probability of somebody breaking away if there's less funding available, even though that seems counterintuitive. It is absolutely true from a venture capitalist perspective. So I'd say my advice is dream, have a chance to go for it. India used to be a place where you had great leverage with very, very talented, smart engineers and, again, a great business partner in government that was looking after the whole country. I think India now is becoming an innovation engine, a dreamer, the capability of making things happen that other countries have not. So I would say go for it. Have the courage to make 2024 your year as a startup. Have the courage to make this the decade for India, just like we say this next decade for AI. I think the action can go in parallel. And you combine that with the strategic partnership with the U.S., you have 3 things going on that is very unique to India that doesn't exist in other parts of the world. So I think unless we misexecute, the next decade, and actually the next 3 decades, looks extremely good for India. I think you're blessed with an amazing leader in Modi. His approval rating, 76, 77%. I wish we had one American politician who was over 50%. So It's a country I believe in, a citizen group that is hugely, I think, a nation of people that can make things happen, a nation of dreamers, but can turn dreams into hopes, into results.
Right. Any three sectors which you feel will drive the growth of the Indian economy over the next decade?
Okay. Let me take a guess. I haven't had it asked exactly that way, so give me just a second to think about it. What I'm doing is I'm going to distract you for a second in your audience while I figure out what are the three things I want to say. If I may break it into two groups. First, the three sectors in technology that will really make a difference for India's future, and important that India lead and partner in those three sections. Number one is AI. It will be about the decade of AI, and perhaps even the century of AI in terms of its impact on the world. The second issue is the cloud and the cloud moving to the edge. I know that you all have had a number of sessions recently talking about the booming of the cloud marketplace in India and what does it really mean. I think that's really important for India to become one of the two or three leaders in cloud on a global basis in terms of the direction for it. And the third technology area is cybersecurity, whether it's as simple as how do you do risk analysis with companies like Safe, that's one of my startups, or how do you do deepfake analysis where people emulate your voice or even your video capability. That's going to be probably the most nuanced area of cybersecurity in the market. Companies like Pindrop that can very quickly determine that that was a machine or that was somebody else recording your voice, are the three areas of technology. For business and for government, I think the most important one is the manufacturing sector to become a digital powerhouse as you move into the AI decade. So manufacturing be number one. Number two, I would say the importance of healthcare for all the citizens across the country, very inclusive across all 29 states and the 7 territories as you move forward in terms of the direction. And if I had to pick a third outside of technology, which made a second standalone, I think the importance that agriculture plays to the country is so important with the inclusive and a large part of the GDP, but job creation within it. Now, what am I most excited about out of all I said in that category? The startups. Startups in every industry, people dreaming, excited about being part of that, and the education system, which is preparing the young people for the future.
Right. And finally, Mr. Chambers, it's been wonderful talking to you, but if I were to ask you about one recommendation that you would love to leave Indians with, the Indian audience with, for 2024, what would that thought be?
Well, Parikshit, my first request is please call me John. It's an honor. We're all equal in life, and I'm trying not to appear formal or older, just more experience. To your question directly, I think India should own this next century. I think India has a chance to lead not just in AI for the next decade, but become the largest economy in the world and execute in a way that allows that to occur. I think this is the time that people in India and candidly in the U.S. with a partnership with India, we have to dream bigger. We have to have the courage to dream and do things that other people haven't done before. And that's what leadership's about. Then you have to turn dreams into hope and say it's possible. And then you've got to publicize the results. And then you've got to have the courage to accelerate through it and enjoy the moment.
All right.
So I want to wish all my friends in India a happy new year, a great holiday season. It's been an honor and will continue to be an honor to be the biggest bull on India, your biggest backer around the world. And it truly is something that I'm very happy to play a small role in.
All right. John Chambers, thank you very much for speaking to CNBC-TV18, giving us your top predictions for India and the hurdles that India really needs to knock out of the way if it has to become the manufacturing powerhouse of the world and a leading economy as well. Thank you once again for being with us here on CNBC and Global Eye. All right, that's all we have time for. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
CNBC-TV18, embarking on a quarter century of excellence.